Summary of Iphigenia at Aulis by Euripides. Agamemnon, king of Mycenae and leader of the Greek mission against Troy, paces nervously outside his tent in the hours before sunrise at an army camp in the Greek port city of Aulis. Since there are no waves in Aulis, the army's ships are stuck in the bay. Agamemnon calls for his helper, an old man who has worked for Agamemnon's wife, Clytemnestra, for a long time. Clytemnestra is at home with their many children in Mycenae. The old man sees that Agamemnon seems upset and asks him what's wrong. Agamemnon says that he has heard some bad news. The prophet Calchas says that the only way for the winds to start blowing again is for Agamemnon to give his oldest daughter Iphigenia to the goddess Artemis. The offering will be a way for Artemis to get back at Agamemnon for killing a deer, which was a holy animal to her, on his way to the port. Agamemnon asked his brother Menelaus to stop the troops when he heard what the goddess wanted. Menelaus refused, since he had called up the troops to sail on Troy to get back his wife Helen from the Trojan prince Paris. Agamemnon sent a letter to Iphigenia in Mycenae, telling her she was going to be married to the great fighter Achilles. This was a lie. Agamemnon, on the other hand, wants to make things right and save Iphigenia from a bad end. He tells the old man to hurry back to Mycenae and bring Iphigenia a new letter that begs her to stay away from Aulis at all costs. Even though the old man is shocked by what the king did, he agrees to give the letter and runs away. Agamemnon goes back to his tent because he is tired. A group of young Chalcidian women start to talk about what's going on. As they pray for the Greeks to win the war against Troy, the women praise the strength of the Greek army, the beauty of its soldiers, and the speed of its ships. Menelaus comes in, pulling the old man with him. The old man was on his way to give Agamemnon's letter, but Menelaus stopped him. Menelaus accuses Agamemnon of trying to betray the Greek cause when he comes out of his tent. He reminds Agamemnon that he was eager to lead the Greek forces to Troy until he heard that he would have to give something of his own to get there. Agamemnon, on the other hand, says that Menelaus put his own family and all of Greece in danger just to get back his bad wife. As the men argue, a messenger comes to tell Agamemnon that Clytemnestra, their baby son Orestes, and Iphigenia have arrived. Agamemnon tells Menelaus with great sadness that he has fallen into the snare of fate and doesn't know what to do. Menelaus tells Agamemnon that he has been right all along. Iphigenia must be saved, because he feels sorry for her. Agamemnon thanks Menelaus for changing his mind, but he admits that he thinks it's too late. If the men find out that Agamemnon has betrayed their cause, they will kill him, his wife, and his children anyway. Menelaus leaves in a sad way. The crowd is sad about what a bad choice Agamemnon must make. As a choir of servants helps Clytemnestra, Iphigenia, and Orestes out of their chariot, Clytemnestra fawns over her children and talks about how excited she is for Iphigenia's wedding day. Iphigenia can't wait to see Agamemnon, whom she loves very much. Iphigenia notices that Agamemnon seems busy as he comes out of his tent to meet his family. Agamemnon says he is sad because a war is coming up, but he can hardly keep it together when he sees his favorite daughter. He starts to cry about how much he'll miss Iphigenia, and she thinks he's talking about her upcoming wedding. She cheers him up and then goes into the tent. Clytemnestra tries to make her husband feel better by telling him that she is just as sad as he is that their oldest child is getting married. As Clytemnestra eagerly asks about wedding plans, Agamemnon tries to convince her that she should let him handle the event and go home with Orestes. Clytemnestra refuses. She goes into the tent upset. Agamemnon is back on his own, and he starts to feel bad about his situation. He then goes to see Calchas to finish making plans for the killing of Iphigenia. Achilles walks in and asks to see Agamemnon. He and his men are tired of waiting in Aulis and hearing nothing from their leaders. Clytemnestra comes out of the tent and introduces herself to Achilles with great joy. She tells him that their families will soon be married and become one. Achilles is both confused and horrified by the fact that Agamemnon used his name to lure Iphigenia to Aulis. Achilles has no idea that his name was used in this way. Clytemnestra, embarrassed, apologizes. After hearing them talking, the old man comes out of the tent and tells them everything. He tells them about Agamemnon's plans for Iphigenia's sacrifice and how he tricked Achilles and Clytemnestra to get to that terrible goal. As soon as Clytemnestra hears about Agamemnon's plan, she kneels down and asks Achilles to save her and her daughter. Achilles says that he will help Clytemnestra. He says he won't let anything bad happen to Iphigenia. He will protect her until his last breath, just as if she were his bride. He says that the girl shouldn't know what her father has planned for her, which is a bad thing. Achilles says that in the meantime, Clytemnestra should go to Agamemnon and try to talk to him on her own. Achilles tells her that if she can't win over Agamemnon's heart, he'll do it for her. While Clytemnestra goes back inside to wait for Agamemnon's return, a chorus of Chalcidian women laments that the men in charge of leading the Greek armies to Troy have put justice behind them. When the chorus is done, Clytemnestra comes out of the tent to say that Agamemnon is nowhere to be found. Clytemnestra told Iphigenia about her father's plans, which made her angry. Agamemnon walks in and asks for Iphigenia to be brought out so that they can get married. He is still playing his trick. Clytemnestra decides to play along and calls Iphigenia out of the tent. Iphigenia comes out of the tent with Orestes in her arms and a shield over her face. Once Iphigenia is there, Clytemnestra tells Agamemnon to tell the truth. When he acts stupid, she yells at him and reminds him of how loyal she has been to him over the years. She tells him that she will always hate him if he hurts Iphigenia. A choir tells Agamemnon to pay attention to his wife. Iphigenia goes up to her father and begs him not to kill her. She says she is innocent and has nothing to do with the trouble Helen and Paris have caused. Agamemnon, on the other hand, complains that he has no choice in the matter. The gods want the Trojan War to happen, and if he is the one to stop it, he will surely get even more of their anger. Agamemnon quietly walks away. Iphigenia says bad things about her father, her country, and her future. Achilles comes in, and angry screams can be heard coming from behind him. Achilles tells Iphigenia that more and more men are asking for her to be killed because they can't wait to get on the ship. Achilles promises that he will guard Iphigenia from all of them, even if his own soldiers turn against him. Iphigenia, on the other hand, stands up and says that it's pointless to fight or hold out against the inevitable. She has chosen to give up her life so that both her name and her country can be remembered. Achilles begs Iphigenia to leave Aulis with him and come home to be his bride, but Iphigenia has already made up her mind. She is ready to die so that Greece can be free. She implores her mother not to cry or get mad at Agamemnon. After saying goodbye to her mother and younger brother, Iphigenia sings a sad but happy song to the goddess Artemis. She hopes that her blood will make the goddess happy and help the Greek army win the war. Iphigenia goes away toward the sacrifice altar, where her father and Achilles are waiting for her. Orestes goes back into the tent with Clytemnestra. Later, a person brings the happy news that a miracle has happened at the altar. Clytemnestra comes out of her tent to hear the message. The message says that as the prophet Calchas got ready to cut Iphigenia's throat, the girl turned into a deer, which showed that Artemis was happy with the offering. The message says that Iphigenia has been saved and taken to heaven to live with the gods and goddesses. The winds have picked up, and the men are getting ready to set sail for Greece. Everything is fine. Agamemnon walks up to Clytemnestra and says goodbye. He asks her to not be mad at him. She doesn't answer, but instead turns away and goes into the tent quietly as Agamemnon takes his men down to the harbor, where their ships are waiting.
About the author. Euripides was a Greek playwright who wrote tragedies. His work, along with that of Sophocles and Aeschylus, is now seen as some of the most important art from the classical era. Today, we only know a few details about Euripides' life, and most people think that many of the stories about him come from folklore. For example, it's possible that his parents were told by an oracle that their son would be a great athlete, so they didn't waste any time getting him into sports school. Euripides seems to have been married twice when he was an adult. Both marriages ended in divorce, and rumor has it that Euripides went to live in a cave on his home island of Salamis to read and write. In 455 BCE, Euripides first took part in the city Dionysia, an Athenian theater event. He won prizes for his work, including 2 that were given after his death. Euripides' plays, like Medea, Hippolytus, the Trojan Women, and the Bacchae, are known for focusing on what's going on inside their characters, which was a big change from the way Greek theater had been done before. Playwrights like Racine, Shakespeare, and Ibsen, who lived in later centuries, said that Euripides' focus on feeling and psychology had a big impact on their own work.
Hope we summarized it fully and you liked it. Please hit the like button and subscribe to our channel so that we are motivated to create more videos.